No! You mustn't do this. This is terrible story writing.
Live with it, Kane. We cut the budget and we had the story written by some guy living in a Denny's parking lot.
But why? This is a beloved franchise.
They'll buy it anyway, Kane. Besides, we plan on turning this into a mobile game.
Oh, gods.
Wait till you see what we have planned for Warcraft 3. Now die, Butterfly Cannon!
No! You've lost a player, Magda. I'll never play Diablo again.
Diablo 4 will have 150 dungeons and more cinematics than ever.
Oh, well, sweet.
Still not subbed? Okay.
All right, so let's talk about Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is a title that's been held in a state of conflict ever since the utterance of its development. Across Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, I've seen both content creators and fans of the franchise undecided on their positions with the game. You'll hear things like, it's gonna be pay to win, it's just high-res Diablo Immortal, I just can't trust Blizzard anymore, so on and so forth. While I believe every consumer should be skeptical of any product until that product is released, this is why I say don't pre-order games, I do believe that a lot of the common judgments that are levied at Diablo 4 are misplaced. So let's dispense with pretense. Let's look at the information that we have available to us, shine a light on some of the biggest concerns regarding Diablo 4, and find out exactly why you are buying Diablo 4. All right, let's tackle the golden, diamond-encrusted, cash-stuffed elephant in the room. A lot of people believe that Diablo 4 is just going to be Diablo Immortal with a fresh coat of paint. And honestly, who can blame you? Diablo Immortal was a slap in the face. I don't think anybody thought that Blizzard would try to run Diablo Immortal, a mobile game, as a flagship title, giving it the BlizzCon treatment, giving us the you don't have phones treatment. It's left a lot of us burned and a lot of us asking where Blizzard is headed and what are they trying to do. I always felt that a mobile Diablo game was not only a desirable and logical product, it was a predictable W for Blizzard. I mean, Diablo and ARPGs are just so well suited for mobile devices. However, I never thought they would present Diablo Immortal as a flagship, a title worthy of BlizzCon. I feel as though many of the concerns regarding Diablo Immortal's influence on Diablo 4 stems from that condescending, prideful, do you not have phones announcement at BlizzCon. It was blatantly obvious that Blizzard felt that Diablo Immortal was a guaranteed win, that the fans would lap it up, pay for their loot, and ask for more. We translated Blizzard's arrogance and their financial success of Diablo Immortal into ill tidings for what we could expect from Diablo 4. However, the community had major backlash over Diablo Immortal, likely influencing a lot of the choices that they made in Diablo 4. In June of last year, both General Manager Rod Ferguson and Community Manager Adam Fletcher came forward on Twitter explaining that Diablo 4's monetization wouldn't be nearly as aggressive as Diablo Immortal, limiting microtransactions to cosmetic only. While there was, and still is, a considerable amount of people that don't fully believe them, you must realize that their words hold weight and are proven by leaks, consumer polls, and beta testers. To monetize the game further with power-incentivized microtransactions would decimate what little respect remains for Blizzard at this point. Furthermore, I would like to add that in those leaks and polls mentioned earlier, the cosmetics for Diablo 4 didn't overshadow the items that we could obtain within the game. Personally, I find this incredibly reassuring, because it looks as though the Diablo team is ensuring that the Battle Pass and the cosmetic shop remain features of the game rather than its foundation. This detail cannot be understated. Over the last few years, we've had far too many games come out that have focused on their monetization first and their gameplay second. We've seen it with Halo Infinite, or Tower of Fantasy, or every single Square Enix Games as a Service game that has come out over the last few years. The fact that Diablo IV is making sure that their gameplay is tight and that their monetization isn't taking away from that gameplay is huge. Diablo IV is not Diablo 1, 2, or 3. One of the downsides, or upsides, depending on what direction you're looking at it from, is that Diablo 4's development and its release is taking 11 years after the release of Diablo 3. The wants and needs of players, popular trends within ARPGs, innovation within the industry, a lot has changed over the course of the last decade. Another common complaint for Diablo 4 is its world. This is our first time with a static world, this is our first time with no procedural generation, and it's leaving players feeling a little jaded. So, as this is kind of a multi-layered subject, I'm going to try to attack this part by part. Blizzard sees the fevering popularity of games like Lost Ark and Path of Exile, and they seek to emulate some of that success within Diablo 4. I feel as though a lot of the changes regarding Diablo 4, like it always being online and having a static world, are just natural evolutions of the game to suit current players' needs. The same can be said for the Battle Pass and the Cash Shop. We asked for this. We asked for a bigger Diablo. We wanted to play Diablo all the time. We wanted new content consistently. We wanted a more involved and immersive experience. We're getting what we asked for. Alright, so this one's probably going to start a fight in the comments. Joe Shelley and the Diablo team are delivering on the needs of the players. That $70 price tag, which I'm not really much of a fan of, by the way, that's Blizzard's initial return on investment for developing the game. The Battle Pass and Cash Shop, well, those help to fund continued maintenance, seasonal events, and additional content. The static world that a lot of people are complaining about, that's a place for us to become familiar with, which is something critical in an MMO or shared world environment. And Diablo 4 is always online because otherwise, all of the group-related content like PvP, world bosses, and events wouldn't function or have use otherwise. Also, as a side note, I'm going to pull a J. Allen Brack. You don't care about procedurally generated areas as much as you think you do. You think you want them, but you don't. The dungeons are still dungeons. The fields of misery are still the fields of misery. Changing whether you go north for an objective versus south doesn't fundamentally change your experience, and I would argue it only serves as a frustration when you have to rediscover entrances to areas all over again. As mentioned previously, this is not Diablo 2. The procedurally generated world served as a way to give freshened gameplay to players that had to replay the world rather than complete other activities and objectives like world bosses, nightmare dungeons, and other things that are featured in Diablo 4. Keeping in mind that Diablo 4 is a shared world game, it would literally be impossible for them to create a procedurally generated world. However, it may still be possible for them to do that with dungeons. Personally, I feel that procedural generation will only be missed if the world in Diablo 4 isn't well crafted or memorable. Alright, so I'll give you my biggest concern with Diablo 4. I'm afraid of how much of Diablo 3 still lingers in the background. As a big fan of Diablo 2 who sunk a ton of hours into it, I felt like it was a major slap in the face what we got from Diablo 3. Now, don't get me wrong. I actually really liked Diablo 3 as a couch co-op arcadey style game to play. However, Diablo 3 was not a successor to Diablo 2. It felt more like playing Gauntlet at the arcade. Diablo 3 gave fans of the franchise a watered down mess. Runes and rune words? We don't need those. Just throw some generic runes on your skills and feel how they don't change the gameplay at all. Customize attributes? That's for nerds. Who needs identity when we can make everything feel the same? Deckard Cain? Death by Butterfly. Diablo 3 was built for accessibility. Whether it was the lack of customization, the endless shower of legendaries, the game just felt empty, unrewarding, and boring to play. Diablo IV seems to turn away from everything that Diablo III and Diablo Immortal are, blazing its own path, paying homage to the real roots of the franchise's success. Diablo II. The world is dark, bloody, gritty. Dispensed with all of the cartoonish look from Diablo 3, Diablo 4 is every bit of the hell-torn landscape soaked in depravity that we have come to expect. Along with the changes to the world, Diablo 4 returns the power of choice back to the players. They're giving us an incredibly impactful skill tree and extensive weapon customization. In place of Diablo 2's runes and rune words, players are given the ability to use mechanics like the Herodric Cube from Diablo 3, pulling legendary aspects off weapons and placing them on others, permanently recording weapon affixes in their Power of Codex, and the ability to reroll stats through enchanting. Alright, so let's talk about the endgame. Because most of you guys that are watching this video are probably going to be buying Diablo 4 no matter what. The only question for us is whether or not we're going to be playing it for a long time, or if we're going to be playing it all the time. Now, back in November, some beta testers levied some pretty harsh complaints at Diablo 4's endgame. In fact, Force Gaming, one of the best ARPG channels on YouTube, compiled a video that had all of those complaints and some of his own, comparing Diablo 4 to Lost Ark. Now, one of the things that I want to make clear is Diablo 4 is not Lost Ark. And thank God for that. I could argue that Lost Ark's design is that of an MMO first and an ARPG second, whereas Diablo 4 is an ARPG that just has shared world mechanics. It's obvious that the scale of an MMO is going to completely overshadow Diablo 4, especially an MMO that's had 4 years to grow, add new content, and monetize just about everything in the game. As someone who has casually played Lost Ark, I too had the thought that Diablo 4 had its work cut out for it. However, as the release for Diablo 4 grows closer, I have tempered those expectations and realized I was looking at the game from the wrong angle the entire time. As it stands, Diablo 4's endgame is a massive improvement over rifts and bounties from Diablo 3. We now have a shared world where we can run into other players. We have nightmare dungeons that seem to function similarly to Mythic Plus in World of Warcraft. Hell tides that wash over zones, giving us reasons to revisit them. PvP zones to test our mettle against other players. World bosses. And finally, the Tree of Whispers that acts kind of like the bounty board from Diablo 3. All of these activities have unique loot and resources which incentivize players to take part in all of them. Joe Shelley and Rod Ferguson have both come out stating in interviews that they plan on continuing to grow the endgame experience for Diablo 4 and provide large expansions in the future. They've looked at Diablo 4 as a test ground, where every single season they can bring in something new, see if it works, and then just add it to the game as a permanent mechanic. I believe that with all of the content that's been announced for Diablo 4, there is enough here for a very healthy and hearty endgame experience. And after making this video, doing the research, doing the writing, and reflecting on some of the concerns of the community, I've come to realize that we have a penchant for making problems that just don't exist. Philosopher Lucius Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than we do in reality." And I feel like that's incredibly apt here in this discussion for Diablo 4. Blizzard hasn't done themselves any favors, and they haven't really done a whole lot over the past few years to make fans of their games optimistic. However, recently, they've been farming wins, and to ignore that would be dumb. Overwatch 2 is doing well. World of Warcraft Dragonflight has been received positively, and I believe that Diablo 4 is going to follow this trend and go down as another win in the books. I could be wrong. My glass half full mentality could very well be my demise. However, one thing is for certain. I'm going to be buying Diablo 4. And so will you.